Hello, Radio Faithfuls. Good afternoon and welcome to join us on today's 2 p.m. news on Reality 8.4 FM. Let's have the headlines. At the forefront, the President of the Republic has encouraged the younger generation to embrace entrepreneurship as a primary solution to raising unemployment. While the vision is clear, young Cameroonians highlight the stark reality of business climate, noting that the path to success is paved with significant structural and financial challenges.
Limited access to finance. We need some specific equipment, and most time it's always a challenge.
When you request for funding from government and the funding actually comes, there are people in government that sit on that funding.
Out of the country in Sudan, a passenger's ferry carrying approximately 30 to 35 people capsized and sank in the Nile River in Sudan's River Nile state. Local authorities and medical groups have confirmed that at least 21 people lost their lives in the said tragedy. In sports, Cameroon's under-17 Lions have taken off for Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The objective of the delegation is to participate in the UNIFAC zonal tournament and grab a ticket for the 2026 Under-17 African Cup of Nations. Those were the headlines. Stay tuned for a development of these stories and several others. Good afternoon once more. We begin the news today in health, where a 4-day local vaccination campaign against poliomyelitis has been launched today in some parts of Cameroon, notably in the Adamawa East, Far North and the northern regions. The vaccination campaign, to end on the 15th of February 2026, will tackle children between 0 to 5 years old and will be carried out in hospitals, health centers, churches, markets, homes and public places. But what is polio and how is it managed? Frinu Crispin, head of Reporters Brigade, has more.
Poliomyelitis or polio is a highly contagious disease caused by the world polio virus that paralyzes the legs, causing severe deformity. Weeding Kayimbe is a health expert.
The affected have to crawl on all their fours to move from place to place. It usually takes up to 2 years after exposure to the wild polio virus to get paralysis. So that is what poliomyelitis is all about. There is a paralysis of the legs, and the paralysis is mostly at the level of the muscles. Since the muscles become so weak, they can no more carry the weight of the body.
When a patient is suspected to have polio, they can present several symptoms.
We can have symptoms that vary from the paralysis of the limbs, we have severe deformity, we can observe fevers, we can observe neck stiffness, we can observe respiratory infections that can even cause respiratory failures in these patients.
The disease can be spread from one person to another through physical contact.
When our hands are contaminated after using at the toilet, and those hands are put into our mouth, or we use the hands to contaminate our food and which the stool was already infected with the virus, we can get polio virus. It can also be spread through aerosol droplets. When an infected person coughs or sneezes on you, on your face without covering, you can get exposed to polio virus.
The experts further reveals that polio virus cannot be treated but can be managed and prevented.
But once you are exposed to the wild polio virus, they can only manage the symptoms, and the management of the symptoms is generally supportive, where when the patient is in severe pains, we use pain medications. Patients who are already having respiratory failure, they place them on mechanical ventilation. Patients who are having very high temperatures, they give them medications for temperatures. Some patients may undergo surgeries where there's a complete joint replacement.
When it comes to other ways of managing polio, doctors recommend physical therapy and rehabilitation programs.
Frinu Crispin in that report, and from there, recent investigation by the audit bench has highlighted significant delays in the transfer of recovered revenue from the National Social Insurance Fund (CNPS) into the state treasury. These bottlenecks have raised alarms among financial experts regarding their impacts on the nation's fiscal health. In the report, that follows, compiled by Jeffrey Tachum, analysts weigh on the potential consequences of these payment lags, noting that they disrupt government cash flow and complicate the management of public finances.
Delays by the National Social Insurance Fund to transfer recovered claims into the state's basket could have far-reaching implications, according to Ferdinand Jamohaiwan, research analyst and national coordinator at the Cameroon Economic Policy Institute.
From a cash flow perspective, when recovered claims are not transferred quickly to the treasury, the government ends up with less liquidity available to finance its expenditures, salaries, subsidies, investment, or debt servicing. For example, recent audits have already shown that tens of billions of CFA francs can remain outside the treasury when they should normally strengthen the state budgetary resources.
In addition, the analyst mentions potential risk of increased costs for the states and disruption of public policy implementation, amongst others.
When financial flows become unpredictable, budget planning becomes more fragile and the government may be forced to rely more on borrowing or short-term treasury advances. This delay can worsen budgetary pressures. We already know that the accumulation of payment areas weakens budget management, increase costs for the state, and can even disrupt the implementation of public policies.
And from a macroeconomic standpoint, impacts can equally be felt on the real economy. Besides, these delays also raise concerns on public governance and transparency. Jamohaiwan once again.
If the state lacks liquidity, it delays payments to suppliers, which reduce companies' cash flow, limits their access to credit, and can slow down economic activity. From a more critical perspective, these delays mainly raise governance concerns because the audit bench exists precisely to ensure transparency and discipline in the management of public funds.
If not addressed immediately and in an effective way, this situation risks disrupting public services and highlights the need for greater transparency in managing state finance.
The head of state, President Paul Biya, during his latest address to the youth on the eve of the National Youth Day celebration, announced the electoral calendar for the 2026 will have some slight adjustments as of what concerns the holding of municipal and legislative elections. Here is an excerpt of his speech with the said announcement.
Various opportunities come to my mind in this regard, including the upcoming reshuffle of managers of state corporations, the formation of the next government, which I know is eagerly awaited, as well as the organization of legislative and municipal elections, though the time frame for the elections may require a minor adjustments due to pressing constraints in compliance with the relevant provisions of our laws, especially the Constitution.
And following this outing from the head of state, President Paul Biya, on February 10, the political scene has been divided over this issue. In the report that follows, Evans Williams Jobati approached some political analysts who shared their thoughts for the news.
After listening keenly to the President of the Republic and pondering on his words, minor adjustment on the electoral calendar, Valentine Keng makes an understanding of this situation.
Translation into real political language, we will decide the calendar when it suits us. Just say it simple. That's not a technical sentence. That's a power sentence. Because in a normal democracy, elections control leaders. But in a captured system, leaders control elections. Because it seems like when they were extending the mandate for one more year, they had no idea that February, March, April, May is around the corner.
On the other hand, Professor Victor Mbarika believes this move is aimed at remedying some issues.
The president did not just say they want to adjust that. So for certain, legal issues, just to ensure that these elections are conducted in the right way, because if it's not done the right way, then we get back to the same confusion we had for the presidential elections where people were complaining. To me, it's a good thing. It's good to wait and do it right. As you rush it and do it wrong, it instead causes chaos down the road. Don't forget, it's stipulated within the Constitution that it can be postponed for up to 6 months. youth.
And when asked if these postponements could further create an atmosphere where opposition parties boycott the awaited process, Professor Victor Mbarika says,
a boycott would be one of the most foolish things political parties can do. I want to remind you, boycott as leaders of political parties, you are indeed not promoting democracy because you are taking away the rights of the people that really even wanted to vote maybe for you. It's very anti-democratic. So allow people to vote. Now remember that postponing has been done within the rule of law, within the rule of the Constitution. Nothing has been done outside of what the Constitution stipulates. So why the rush?
As a reminder, the mandates of members of parliament were extended to March 30th, 2026, while municipal councillors to May 31st, 2026, with a probability of holding the set elections in late August this year.
The President of the Republic, in the same speech to youth on February 10, encouraged youth entrepreneurship, this in order to curb unemployment amongst them. The head of state also reaffirmed the government's commitment to support youth projects. Based on these declarations by President Paul Biya, our reporter Glory Ngange spoke to some young entrepreneurs who shared their challenges experienced in the field. Here is her report.
Addressing the youth on the eve of the 60th Youth Day celebration, President Paul Biya called on citizens to persevere and continue trusting their abilities despite the challenges, as well as embrace entrepreneurship.
As you are aware, recruitment in the public sector or enterprises cannot alone fully resolve the thorny issue of youth unemployment. That is why I will continue to encourage youth entrepreneurship and ensure that young people receive appropriate government support to that end.
The head of state also reaffirmed government commitment to continually support youth initiatives. Godwill and Lizette are both young entrepreneurs.
I think it's encouraging to know that the head of state is thinking about the youth, and I have recognized that youth are the leaders of tomorrow and is putting in place platforms and opportunities to help the youth. I'm quite encouraged by what the head of state said.
The president's emphasis on youth entrepreneurship is encouraging and timely, especially in a context where unemployment remains a major challenge. The speech recognizes young people not just as job seekers, but also job creators.
Wanto Lizette, a food technician, brings to the limelight some of the difficulties she encounters.
Limited access to finance, ideal transformation of local agricultural products to finished products, and healthier alternatives for people in my community. Dealing with these items, we need some specific equipment, and most time it's always a challenge because most of those equipment I don't have. If the government keep to their words to support youth projects, some of these challenges will not oversurface.
Godwill, on his part, points out that these upheavals continue to exist due to the dishonesty of intermediaries between the state and the beneficiaries.
Sometimes when you request for funding from government and the funding actually comes, there are people in government that sit on that funding, and you have to, like they say in Cameroon, in quotes, you have to settle them before they release the funding. They just make things unnecessarily complicated for you to get the funding, whereas the money has been disbursed already to help entrepreneurs.
Both young entrepreneurs earn by emphasizing the need for government to implement all the assurance made to them on February 10th and other occasions.
Until on the same speech, the president sounded an alarm on social vice and unhealthy behaviors taking hold among young people. The president condemned the recent occurrences where Cameroonian youth are increasingly caught in the web of risky behaviors, from substance abuse to moral decay, with these issues now pervasive in schools and neighborhoods. Our reporter Ngang Nader spoke to some parents on the strategies they have been exploring to shield their children from these social ills. Here's a report.
President Biya's speech struck a chord, particularly his words condemning the scourge of social ills and deviant behavior gripping the youth. Parents on the part have been taking some steps to address the issue with their children. Kelly, emphasizes the importance of constant vigilance and staying alert to any changes in behavior.
Parents should follow up their children like a dog follows up food. That means check every nook and cranny of your child, from their hair to their feet, their toes, to check what they have, what is new about them, what are they doing, what has changed about them.
Oskuli chooses to take a more spiritual approach, praying and entrusting the children to God.
There's no way to stop children. I just, in fact, all we need is to pray to God, because you cannot follow a child to school to see what he or she is doing in school. It's not possible. So all we have to do is to just give it to God and pray.
Linda is concerned that the administration's shortcomings have created an environment where illicit substances easily penetrate schools and communities, putting children at risk.
Things like drugs, you cannot say you will tell the drug producer to stop producing, because if we call ourselves a country that has custom officers, how do those things enter here? How do those things enter countries until go at the level of students and they take them to schools? Then you will not know we are not the ones producing it. They go and buy. The person selling it, how come you are selling it to children who are on the edge of that level?
She adds that she engages in open conversations with her children about the risks of substance abuse and other social ills to steer them towards making informed choices.
And how do we do? The highest thing, or as a measure, as me as a parent, first thing is to pray for the child, and secondly is to talk with the child, sit the child down, talk with the child, the negative effects of the social ills. I think that's all as a measure that I can do.
Moral decadence has been on a surge in the past few months, with videos circulating on social media involving young people in various social ills, including drug abuse, promiscuity, among others.
Mapala Zita, who is a senior reporter and editor-in-chief here at Royal FM, has joined me in the studio for our international news file. Good afternoon, Mapala Zita.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Some 21 people have lost their lives following a ferry accident in Sudan.
Yes, Brian, authorities in a River Nile state in northern Sudan said today that at least 21 bodies have been recovered after a boat sank into the waters. The boat was traveling between the villages of Teiba al-Kawad and Dame al Kwarai, carrying nearly 30 passengers, including women, elderly people, and children. Eyewitnesses said the boat capsized due to high waves last evening in the Shendi area, and according to Dr. Mohamed Faisal Hassan, spokesperson of the Sudan's Doctors Network, rescue teams continue to search for more bodies as they could be possibly available still in the river.
Away from Sudan, polls have closed and vote counting is on in Bangladesh, but you say the atmosphere is tensed.
Polls have indeed formally closed in Bangladesh's landmark election, which is seen as a direct contest between Tariq Rahman's Bangladesh National Party, the BNP, and a coalition of 11 parties led by the resurgent Jamaat el-Islami Party's chief Shafiq Rahman. The alliance has demanded that voting be annulled and new polls held at several centers in Kumila 8, Shariatpur 2, and Patuakali 1, alleging irregularities and voter intimidation. As the vote counting continues, a 10-member delegation have met with Chief Election Commissioner AAM Nazir Uddin today, and according to the Jamaat Assistant Secretary General Muazzem Hussein Elal, the alliance submitted written complaints and more than 100 video clips as evidence. The Election Commission is yet to publicly respond to the demand.
Before you go, Zita, tell us, is there any other news story in your file?
Most definitely, Brian. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has selected his teenage daughter as his heir, this according to information from South Korea's spy agency. The National Intelligence Agency, the NIA, said today that it took a range of circumstances into account, including her increasingly prominent public presence at official events in making this assessment, and also adding that it would keep close tabs on whether she will attend the North's Party Congress later this month, which is the largest in the country and comes up every 5 years. Little is known about Kim Joo-ae, who in recent months has been pictured besides her father in high-profile events. And then Russia says U.S. messenger app WhatsApp has been completely blocked in Russia for failing to comply with local laws, and suggesting that Russians turn to a state-backed national messenger, Max, instead. Today's statement from Kremlin say this is due to Meta's unwillingness to comply with a Russian law despite several months of pressure on the company, which had already been designated as an extremist organization spying on the Russian government. Critics, however, say Max is a surveillance tool for Russians, but authorities have denied the allegations.
In sports, Cameroon's under-17 national team is scheduled to depart for the Democratic Republic of Congo today. Their journey comes just ahead of the UNIFAC Zonal Tournament, which is slated to begin tomorrow, February 12, in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. Under the guidance of Coach Seydou Aloum, the squad spent their final days fine-tuning their strategy throughout several friendly games, including a most recent friendly game staged at the Fekafo Technical Center in Oja against Apejesomfu, where the team lost by 2-1. Notably, the team will compete in Group B of the UNIFAC tournament alongside visiting Gabon and Equatorial Guinea, while the host country will lock horns with the Congo Brazzaville and the Central African Republic in Group A. Cameroon's delegation has concluded a landmark campaign at the 2026 All-Africa Senior Badminton Championship in Gaborone, Botswana. The team reached a historic milestone by securing 10 decisive victories in the women's singles category, highlighted by clean sweeps against Zambia and Egypt. However, the team's impressive journey came to an end in the quarterfinal of the competition, where they were eliminated by continental giants Algeria. Olivier Ndemaepo has joined me in the studio for a summary of this newscast in the French language. Good afternoon.
Bon après-midi, Brian Bawa. Au Cameroun, l'on se rapproche d'une nouvelle prorogation du mandat des députés et des conseillers municipaux. Cette situation pourrait être la résultante de la modification du calendrier électoral. Dans son discours, le 10 février à la jeunesse, le chef de l'État expliquait ce report et cette modification par des contraintes impérieuses. Hors de nos frontières, nous nous rendons en Asie du Sud-Est, précisément au Bangladesh, où se sont déroulées hier les élections législatives. Un scrutin qui intervient 2 années après le renversement de l'ex-premier ministre Sheikh Hasina en 2024. Le scrutin est censé tourner la page du régime de l'ex-chef du gouvernement, jugé assez difficile par les populations du Bangladesh. Sport pour finir, le championnat national d'élite 1 2026 du Cameroun sera rendu le week-end prochain à sa 5e journée. Voici les 6 premières affiches au programme. Colombe du Sud, Aigle du Mungo, Coton Sport de Garoua, Fauve Azur de Yaoundé, Gazelle de Garoua contre S Fortuna Donfou, PWD de Bamenda, Panthère d'Undé, Stade de Renard de Melon, Dynamo de Douala, Victoria United de Limbé, Aigle de la Menoie. Lundi prochain, l'opposition Canon de Yaoundé, Unisport du Honkam va clôturer la 5e journée du championnat élite 1.
We end the news on this note, ladies and gentlemen. Special thanks goes to Romeo Adekume, who was on the technical dashboard. On the cameras for our various social media handles, we had Brian Bida, notably for our YouTube live. Production assistance came in from Free New Crispin. Script editing we got from Mapala Zita. Editorial coaching, Abel Bela Samari. Coordination we had from the station's manager, Roger Kiek. And for general supervision, the Reverend Pastor Bisai Emmanuel Noel. For presentation, my name is Biwa Brian. I'm setting up the stage for what's coming up next. But first, you are going to be treated to some amazing music up until 3 p.m. where you are going to be in the company of Florent Goyam for the program Miroasu.